some of the requirements of a future buyer or a future homeowner when it comes to a rent to own option of you getting a house. Okay, so what does a future homeowner has to do, or what is required of them when they get into a rent to own? So the first thing is they need to know they have to pay option fee. This option fee are somewhere around 1% to 5%, right? And they are non-refundable. So you pay upfront. So know that you're going to pay these fees upfront, which is almost like a down payment. I mean, for me, I'll say if you decide to go with an FHA, it's almost the same price, right? Of course. However, if you decide to do a rent to own, know that you're going to pay a fee upfront and you're not going to get it back. Okay, that means even if you never end up buying that house or becoming that house owner, you're never going to get the money back. So the second thing that is going to be required of you is going to be the rent payment. You will definitely have to pay rent, right? And you have to pay rent and pay higher rents, because part of your rent is going to go toward what is called the rent credit or the rent premium. So when you're getting into a rent to own, know that your rental payments are going to be a little higher than a normal regular rent payment. Okay, so keep that in mind. And of course, it is required. And however, these are just the things that you, the tenant at that time, which are obviously going to be the buyer in future, agrees with the landlord at that time, which is going to be your seller. Okay. So the third thing is going to be the option period. And the option period is just a duration in which you're going to be staying in that house as a tenant. So if you guys agree upon the 3 year, that means you have up to 3 years to actually make up your mind and get everything together, get your finances and maybe your credit or any other thing that has to do with you purchasing the house together. So if you get up to that 3 years, then by the end of 3 years, you should be willing and ready to actually purchase the house. Which means after 3 years elapse and you're unable to do it, then you might be liable to not getting your option fee and your rental credit or extra payment you were making toward that house. Okay. The number 4 thing is the purchase price. So the purchase price is usually going to be agreed upon at the very beginning, right? So it's required for you, the to-be buyer, to make these agreements upfront and know how much you will be paying. It doesn't matter how long your option period is, you'll be paying to your future landlord, your landlord at that time, and your future seller. So how much you guys agree upon to for you to buy the house at a future date. So that is very important for you to know at that time, because however, that is a fixed amount and it's not going to change within that time of within that duration of time you guys had an agreement, right? So it's required of you to make sure all those things are in place and in that agreement. So the fee requirement is going to be maintenance. So you as the tenant are required to do minor maintenance, right, on that property. So you're supposed to do the maintenance and repairs on that property, except for any major or large maintenance that the seller or the landlord at that time should be responsible for. Okay, so make sure all these things are outlined. Ask the question, what am I supposed to repair? What am I going to be responsible for? What is going to be my responsibility at the end of the day when it comes to maintenance and repair? Okay, so these things are well written and clear, so there should be no troubles when you have maintenance or repairs come up. And you don't want to be arguing back and forth, right? You want to know which one you are supposed to be responsible for, right? Because that saves you stress and it saves the landlord stress as well. Number 5, it has to be your financing agreement. So whenever you decide, hey, it's time for me to buy the house, of course you guys are going to go into a whole different agreement from what you guys had agreed upon as tenant and landlord, because by this time you're going to be buyer and seller. So of course it's going to be different. So it's required of you as the buyer, if you decide or you make up your mind that it's time for me to actually become a homeowner, for you guys to come into this financing agreement and how you're going to be paying this seller. Okay, so keep that in mind. So that's when, I think by that time you must have worked on your credit and every other thing for you to be able to secure a loan, right? So the property conditions, you as the tenant or the future buyer is required to make sure that the property is very okay for you to stay in for that time and beyond. So you're required to do your own inspection. Make sure you inspect it, okay? Even if you don't want to take an inspector and you decide, I just want to inspect by myself, make sure that if you are actually signing that agreement, you are okay with every condition of that house before you sign that initial agreement. So you don't come in a year or 2 or the 3 or the end of the option period and tell the seller, hey, this house is not even in a better condition like I thought. It doesn't suit my taste because of 1 or 2 or 3 things in the house. Oh, I'm going to be opting out. Well, you were supposed to do your due diligence and make sure everything was up to your taste or in good condition when you were signing that agreement. That should not be an excuse for you, because you had all the time, right, to taste those things. You had all the time to take a look into those things and consider it before signing it. So don't bring it as an issue. So we don't want disputes in the future. You just want to make sure that you inspect this property at the very beginning. You're equally required, which is going to be number 8, to comply with the terms. Yeah. So number 8 is going to be compliance with terms. So it just means that whatever you guys have agreed upon, you are obligated, you are legally bound to finish those things. So if you said, I'm going to be buying this house at the end of 3 years period, you should be buying the house, right? You shouldn't come up with something except, I mean, we never know. Something comes up which is tangible or reasonable. But if it's not and you just want to walk away just because you have some thoughts about the house again and you don't want to buy, well, you have to think twice, because of course you are supposed to comply with all the terms and conditions outlined on the rent to own agreement, and failure to meet these terms might result to a forfeit in your option fee, which is non-refundable in most cases, and the option or the rent credit. Okay, the rent credit is mostly the part that they start chipping down for you to do a down payment. So that means you have to walk away with nothing. So the last one is going to be market conditions. So when it comes to market conditions, right, you as a potential buyer, you might want to seek a real estate professional on this to actually tell you if the value of the house at that time is worth buying, if it's going to be increasing in the following years or not. Okay, so if you know that it's going to be increasing in the following years, of course you're going to be building equity by the time you sign that rent to own agreement, because by the end of those years you're actually going to buy that house, right? So that equity that have been growing for 3 years automatically becomes yours. So you want to seek for this legal advice. And equally, you want to seek for professional advice, maybe from a real estate attorney, to make sure you understand all these terms in this agreement before you go into it. If you don't understand it and if he explains it to you and it's not what you really want, It's easier to walk away at that time and do not sign it than sign it and then start regretting after, because you might have a lot to lose at the end than at the beginning. Okay, and this takes us to the end of this video. Thank you for watching to the end. Please be reminded it's just for educational purposes only. Do your due diligence to research on these things before agreeing to these different options of becoming a homeowner. Thank you for all your time. Please, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Do like, share, and turn on the notification bells. Please leave comments on things you want me to talk about or things you want me to know. Thank you so much. And if you're interested in having a little bit more understanding or knowledge about how to buy a home, I do have a book called The Home Buyer's Guide. I'm going to be leaving the link in the description box so you can request and read to increase your knowledge base. Until next time, stay safe and healthy. Thank you.